So, what is the first thing that you do when an emergency happens? If you said panic, this is the episode for you because that is not what you should do. Hello and welcome to Embracing the Fight. I am Erica Lamar, your digital creator and host. And I've been on since January of 2023 talking about normalizing the conversations surrounding physical and mental health issues and concerns. And if you've been with me since then, you know I started off talking about my journey through thyroid cancer and any other things that have happened in my life concerning my medical history. Also, I've had people to come on and share their stories and testimonies. And if that's you and you'd like to come on Embracing the Fight to share your testimony and your story, just send me a message at operations@diversitydesign.com. Or you can message me down below and say you'd like to be a guest, and I will reach out to you. Or you can reach out to me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. Now, the only difference is on Instagram, it is embracing the fight underscore. So click like, comment, subscribe, and share. So let's get into today's episode, what to do when there's an emergency or emergency preparedness. So just imagine you're at a barbecue and you have several of your friends with you, and everyone appears, to be in good physical condition. And everybody's out, they're dancing, having a good time. It's extremely hot. You're all outside, and everybody's not necessarily drinking water. Some people, are drinking, those libations, they're drinking alcohol, or they're drinking something extremely sweet, and they're not getting the electrolytes that they need. And you notice that someone is not acting like themselves. When you see them, what do you say? What do you do? Do you evaluate? Do you just sit and watch? What do you do? So when that person starts to not act like themselves, go over, talk to them and kind of evaluate. Is this like heat stroke? Are they drunk? What's going on here? Ask them some questions, and if they are answering in an incoherent manner or a manner that doesn't match, who they are, then you should immediately be concerned. Now, if it's a stranger and you're out and you see someone that is doing odd things and you want to help them, still do the same thing. Go over to them, talk to them, and try to get them to, tell you who they are and ask them if they need help. Now, from the point of if you see someone just laid out, don't approach them because you don't know exactly what's, caused them to fall up in that state. I mean, you have to assess the area because that person could have been electrocuted. You go over, you touch them, and now you electrocuted too. And now it's two of you lying there. Or there's a poisonous substance or gas that's there that can potentially take both of you out. So survey, the area. Don't just run over because you see a person, laid on the ground because be a gunshot victim, the person's waiting, in the bushes to get you next, So let's be, diligent about checking our surroundings. Well, in all three of those situations, make sure that you have some form of assessment where either A, you're talking to the person, B, you're observing the person, or C, you're observing the area before you actually get to the person. Now, something a lot of people, don't think about because of all the technology. When you dial 911, in some areas, your whatever your prefix is, whatever your area code is, it could be different from the 911 that you're calling, and you need to verify. You need to say, is this whatever city 911? Because sometimes it'll pick up whatever your number is. It'll give you like highway patrol. It'll give you all these different things, and you need to verify that you're talking to the right team that you need help from. So for instance, if you're in California and you have, say, an Oregon, area code, it's pretty close, but it's not California. And then, you don't know exactly where the signal went. So you need to verify I'm at this location. Is this EMS that I've reached, can they come to this location or can someone be dispatched, to this area? And then if they can't do it, sometimes they're able to, you know, transfer you or do what's necessary to get the help that you need. Because sometimes, you know, it, even though, like I said, there's technology out there, that it's not foolproof. So let me give you an example. When people put my parents' home address into their GPS, it takes them to a whole different location. Not even our address actually, because we have people to come in and say, hey, it took us to a dead end. It's nothing over here but like bushes and trees. And of course, we live in an area that's heavily wooded, but not on that end. You literally have to cross a creek, that doesn't have a bridge to come the way the GPS is sending them. Imagine if we were to call 911 and they came that way. We've disputed it and we've put that information in, with the city, but it apparently I don't know exactly what we would need to do, but I'm thinking about, reaching out to Google Maps, get it changed some kind of way. I've reached out to EMS, maybe, it'll change, but we haven't had any incidents, with an ambulance, coming out there because the ambulance drivers they follow because they know, this is the street. The street doesn't split, it doesn't, go any different ways or anything like that. So they know where to go. But imagine if someone didn't know where to go. It could be a life or death situation. So you need to make sure that wherever you're calling from or the area code that you're calling from doesn't, send out the wrong signals. So when you're trying to help someone, you actually, hinder their care. So when you get on the call with the 911 operator, make sure that you tell them, the address where you are. And if you are not sure about the address, verify with someone who is. And even if you can't, tell exactly where you are and say there is no one else out there and you don't know that city, you can open your phone map, drop a pin, and it'll give you the address to where you are. And even if it doesn't give you the address, it gives you the coordinates. And EMS can take those coordinates and find, exactly where you are to offer you the help that you need. So once you've given them, the proper address and everything, of course, they start off, they say 911, what's your emergency? And you tell them whatever the emergency is, be as descriptive as possible. If you know the person's name, age, height, weight, whether they're diabetic, whether, they are an amputee, whether they have, different medications that they're taking. If you know those things are critical, to saving a person's life because if the person is diabetic, but you're out in the sun and everything, and everyone's drinking and doing different things, you don't know if they're having some type of issue with the diabetes or if it's something that they ate. You don't know what it is, but the more clues that you give, to the people that are responding or to the first responders, the better outcome you could potentially have. Now, another thing, if you don't know the person, look for clues. Sometimes people wear those medical alert bracelets. Sometimes people carry information, in on their person, like in their wallet or in their purse, some type of medical card, something of that nature. Because I'm sure if you're there to help a person, 9 times out of 10, that person doesn't care if you're rambling through their stuff because they need help. They need assistance. And the more information you have, like I said, the better the outcome. So once you're able to provide all the information about the person and whatever the emergency is, stay with the person. Don't leave them. Now, if they're talking, that's a great sign. Just keep them talking, try to keep them calm. But if they're not talking and you know how to administer CPR and you feel comfortable with doing it, do it. But if you don't know how to do CPR, and then you could potentially do more damage than not if you try to do something to the person. But again, I think if you were to, now, this is just my personal opinion. This is not, anything that I'm saying you should or shouldn't do. I just think that if you attempt to save a person's life and say you break a little piece of their breastbone when giving chest compressions, I think they would rather have that broken breastbone than to not wake up, because no one wanted to help them, no one wanted to try. So the next thing you want to do is make sure that, say, if it's something that they ate or something that, that was around them, like if it was a snake bite, whatever. Make sure you have all the information so you can tell the first responders, what happened to them. Because it's one thing to make the 911 call, but it's another thing to be there to explain to the first responders what you saw, and what happened. So just imagine you're sitting there with the person and they're still talking, but they're in so much pain that they can't give good answers. That's where you sometimes come in, where you can answer for the person if you know the answers. Like if they say, what's your birthday, what's your name, that kind of stuff, unless they're asking those questions to see if the person has had like a stroke or cardiac event, and they're trying to get them to talk. And sometimes the first responders are trying to get them to talk so they can take their mind off of what's going on, to help them to calm down, or to keep them, awake, to keep them, coherent, because sometimes people lose consciousness when, they're overwhelmed by the situation, that they're going through. So that's the other thing that I would say. Instead of panicking, remain calm. I know it's pretty hard if you walk up on something and see something that, you're not, used to, and you start to see this person deteriorate right before your eyes. You still have to stand strong for them no matter what. Sure, you can scream, yell, cry later, but that person needs you. Imagine it's you that's lying there and you need help, and everybody around you is running around screaming, yelling because that's all they know how to do. Like, no, you Google everything else. Why wouldn't you Google, something to help someone or to save their life? So when it comes to an emergency, you just have to make sure that you stay calm. You get all the information that you can, and you make sure that you don't leave the person at any time, especially if you're the only one there. You can't leave them, like I said, unless the situation warrants, where there's some imminent danger that's there. Then of course, you can't stay there because you don't want to be the second victim to whatever it was that happened, to that person initially. But you want to be able to articulate what has happened, and, you know, if you can watch from afar and you can still give an account of what's going on, then please do that. But like I said, if there's imminent danger, if someone is shooting, or if there's an earthquake and things are falling, or there's a flood and there's no way for you to physically lift and help move this person without causing yourself harm, then you have to make the best decision for yourself to save your own life. I'm just saying, when there's a time and a place that you can actually help someone without harming yourself, please don't panic. Be the source of calm. Make sure that you get all the information that you can. Make sure that you speak clearly, and identify yourself, as well. I'm not saying identify yourself for, some type of accolade or something like that, but no, the first responders usually want to know, who called, just so they can talk to that person when they get there, because usually that person is the one who has the best account of what has happened, or they know who has the best account of what has happened. Because sometimes if there's two or more people, the people that are assisting the person that having an emergency, they tell that other person to call 911. So then when they call 911, the first responders say, okay, where, like for me, if they're like, hey, where's Eric? And I'm like, yo, I'm over here. And they're like, well, what happens? Okay, they were with them. Then there's no, break in care. There's no, ambiguity. Everyone knows at that point that, okay, these people were here when the emergency started. So this is who we need to talk to. They don't waste any time, because seconds truly matter when emergency, is occurring. So whatever you do, like I said, don't panic. So whenever you come up on an emergency, or you happen to be the one who is in the emergency, don't panic. Now, let's think of something else. Imagine if you're on a hike and you're by yourself. Before you go on your hike, prepare for an emergency. Make sure that your phone is charged completely. Make sure you have some type of hotspot, just in case there's no signal out there for you. You can kind of generate your own signal. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but you can have a hotspot in places where there's no internet. And make sure you have enough to drink. Make sure you have warm clothing. Make sure that you carry any medicines or some food or whatever with you that you need just in case they fall and you hurt yourself. Carry your first aid kit. And whatever you do, don't panic. Snake bite. Don't panic because the more you panic, you think about your blood pressure, it goes up. And what happens when poison enters your body and it gets into your bloodstream, it goes just as fast as the blood goes. So calm down. Sure, I know it's easier said than done if you're laying there and there's like a 20-foot rattlesnake that just struck you. It's like, I'm going to die. But no, you really have to calm down. You have to count to 10, think something, but get yourself, out of danger if you can. If you fall and you break something, make sure that you have something with you. Like I said, if you have that first aid kit, if they have, some have splints, some have those cold compresses when you break them open and, like you rub them together, then you're able to put it on whatever you've hurt. And that's just sustain you until someone can get to you. Make sure you have like a compass just in case your phone dies because your phone has a compass on it, has all these different things, and make sure that you've let someone know where you went. Now here's something funny that I used to do. At least I think it's funny because when I tell people, they laugh. They're like, "Well, you did that." So I used to, I'm not even gonna say I used to, um dating. When you're online dating, you don't know whether the person's telling the truth or not because you didn't meet them, face to face. So when I would meet people online, I would get them to give me a copy or a picture of their driver's license. I would take that picture of their driver's license and the information, that they gave me about them, like where they live and, what they did for a living, all that stuff. I write a whole, like bio about them. I would fold it up, put it in an envelope, and I addressed it to my best friend. I put it in the mailbox, let the flag up. So that way, if, I didn't come back, the letter would go to her and she would know what happened. But if the person's information didn't match what I was looking at, at the time when I met them, then I'd automatically leave. So it's not like, I've been looking around like, oh, I'll give him a check. I'm out of there. So if you do those type things, then someone can be alerted to where you are and what happened. So in the time of any type of emergency, it's easier if people have more information than little information. Because the more information you have, the better the outcome. So that's all I wanted to talk to you all about today on embracing the fight is emergency preparedness. Whether it's you helping someone or you needing help, you can be prepared even when it's, chaos and everyone's panicking and there's all kinds of foolishness that's going on around you because you have to have something within you that says, calm down, this person needs help, or I have to calm down, I need help. Otherwise, you never know what can happen. So please take these tips that I've given you and use them accordingly. And as always, thank you so much for taking your time out to watch this episode. I want you all to have an absolutely amazing day.